A man of the land. Three-sport Grizzly athlete John Heiser gravitated to farm life early on. And he would return to those roots after a long career in sports and service.
He grew up in McMinnville. His dad was a physical therapist that, in fact, did a lot of work on my dad. But we went to church together, and he kept bugging my dad to come out and work on the farm.
Learning farm life came easy for John. Heiser didn't mind the long hours, especially if it involved driving giant farm equipment.
When I first met John Heiser in spring of '73, all the kids in McMinnville that were interested in playing Little League, got out there to do a tryout. And everybody knew who a John Heiser was. And I was fortunate enough to be on the team with, John Heiser. And that was when I first really got to know him, not only as a friend that would be a good friend all the way till now, but through school. And then, competing, with him on these teams.
The two Johns were together on all those teams in junior high and again at Mac High. Football, basketball, and baseball.
I would say that he was pretty rounded with all of them, but baseball, he was a really good baseball player early because he was strong. He had natural strength just from his work ethic, I think, growing up. He did a lot of, work that was not, common today. They don't, kids aren't doing that. So he had natural strength and he was really coordinated as well. So right off the bat, I think baseball was a good sport for him, and that led to other things too.
It didn't hurt playing for legendary coaches Perry Stubberfeld and Don Mabee. On the football field, John Heiser took over a spot at linebacker as a sophomore, and he never left the starting lineup after that. John was a pretty good kicker as well, using that classic straight-on style.
Growing up in this environment in McMinnville, which at that time was they found great success, and he stood out just in the fundamental skills that he had. He wasn't a flamboyant show-off type guy. He was just very fundamentally sound and did everything that his coaches wanted and more so. Unbelievable. He was selected to All-State and went to the Shrine Game.
John finished his high school career at the Shrine Game, where he met Matt Lawrence, the center from Medford. The South Squad won the All-Star Classic, and this dynamic duo stayed in the Rose City to play on those famous teams of the late 70s at Portland State. Mouse Davis, Neil Lomax, and a whole lot of points. PSU didn't have a ton of resources, but the Vikes still made plenty of headlines.
It was odd for me and John and other guys that played on our defense because we all kind of knew what was drawing the attention. It was the PSU offense. Obviously, we had, a state-of-the-art quarterback, and we had an offense ran by Mouse that if you did not know what you were doing on defense, it quickly became apparent.
Always the life of the party, Heiser built a great circle of friends.
Back then, the kids' shows were just coming out when they would dump the slime on you, and it was that kind of fluorescent lime green type thing, and we would call that his slime green Jeep. He was very proud of that Jeep. He loved it, and I'm so glad that he had it too, because especially when we were rooming, it was a good mode of transportation. He loved that Jeep, and even though it did pretty well, occasionally it broke down and he'd have to be out there trying to fix it and whatnot. He had these red suspenders and jeans, and he did chew tobacco too. So you had to watch out when you were grabbing cups, because you had to check your cup and make sure it wasn't John's spit cup. So
college life wasn't all fun and games. John had decided on a medical career early. Matt Lawrence was preparing for vet school, and that created a very competitive study partnership.
It was a way to, both being very kind of competitive, being football players and on the team and everything. It was a good way to push each other. And it wasn't so much, he credits me with that, and he said that a couple of times as we've gotten older. And but I guess I have to give him credit too, because he was pushing me at the same time. So it was really important to ace, organic chemistry, and we both did.
Both John and Matt achieved those dreams. Dr. John Heiser became known as a well-respected and beloved emergency room leader at Providence St. Vincent Medical Center.
Brilliant. The most calm person, the most compassionate young man I've ever met in my life. He faced any adversity with such a calmness. I've seen him in emergency situations on the island, but I've heard so many stories about John. There'd be blood all over everywhere, and he was the calmest guy in the world. It was like, you've got 20 seconds left, you're the quarterback, and you've got to make the decision. With John, you never knew it was, a very tense time, and it could go either way. Most impressive young man I've ever met in my life, beyond doubt.
He was somebody that I could count on as a medical doctor. My wife at the time had a situation where she needed some emergency room assistant. I called him personally, and he says, just get her in right now. If I hadn't got her into there at that moment, things could have turned out different for her. He got us in just like immediately. So it was one of the most thankful things that I could ever say to him. He basically saved a life right there, and it was actually someone that I cared about quite a bit.
Throughout his medical career, the outdoors and farm life was never far from John's thoughts. So, of course, in 1991, he bought a farm right where he learned those skills on Grand Island.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. As friends of John, we could kind of see this coming. I mean, the good friends of his, if you knew John and had conversation with John, you knew what he was bringing to the table. I mean, he loved the outdoors, he loved fishing, he loved hunting, he loved farming, and that farming thing was big ever since I knew him. He talked about having a farm someday, and we're all sitting there scratching our head going, really? You're a doctor and you want to be a farmer? But that's what he did, and that's what he wanted to do. And he's great at it.
And John loved that red barn. And on Grand Island, there was a little smaller red barn, and he found a way after school, and I helped him a little bit on the place, and he bought that place. And he refurbished the barn. He's a Grand Island rat, as we say, just like me. It's a unique place. It's all farming. It's in a floodplain. But John found his home, and he's made one of the most fantastic pumpkin venues in the world.
For 30 years, Heiser Farms has been a fall magnet for families with its pumpkin cannons, corn maze, and special events. John still shares his medical expertise with the McMinnville Fire Department and the St. Paul Rodeo. This man of the land has made his return a happy one for family and friends. Today we welcome John Heiser to the McMinnville High School Hall of Fame.